The great debate. Introverts versus extroverts. I feel like I'm going to be personally attacked today.
Now, I think there's a fair bit of misunderstanding around what an introvert or extrovert actually is. And while introverts are most often portrayed as being shy and awkward, and extroverts as being charismatic and sociable, it isn't always the case. To give an example, most people think that stand-up comedians are all super extroverted because they go on stage in front of a whole crowd. But in practice, most of their time is spent writing, not performing.
I'll give you an example. Not the writing part, but most of the comedians I know are way more low-key in private than they are. Well, a couple of them are always on joke. But most of them, for the most part, are pretty kicked back. Martin Lawrence is always somebody I always point to. If you ever see Martin, but if you ever see interviews or anything that he's doing, he's never, what's up? He's never over the top Martin that he portrays in film. He's actually very subdued and laid back and to the back. More like his character in Life without all this. Yeah, he's more like the character he plays in Life, which is one of my favorite movies. Okay, let's move on. Check that movie out, by the way. We will check it out together. I'll rewatch it and I will laugh like it. I have never seen that Joker before because I do every time.
Someone as famous as Louis C.K. has called himself an introvert, despite the fact that he's performed in front of what? A dozen women? So what does being introverted or extroverted actually mean? And the first thing is that you're not entirely one or the other. You're somewhere on a normal distribution or bell curve that runs from total introversion on one side to total extroversion on the other side, which means almost everyone is actually around the middle. You might have heard some people in this category call themselves ambiverted, but they're actually just average.
You basic bitches. Basic bitch!
Definition of the two extremes is that extroverts are energized by social interaction, while introverts are exhausted by it and prefer more time alone. Problem here is that it's easy to self-diagnose without comparing yourself to anyone, but it only really makes sense if you give a group of people a few dozen hypothetical situations and then rank order their responses relative to everyone else. So you're not way off at the end of the introvert spectrum just because you only rate your Uber driver 5 stars if he doesn't talk to you. You're probably just on a different sort of spectrum.
Yeah.
So without quizzing you on every detail of your life, what are the signs that you're more introverted or extroverted? So extroverts tend to have a lot of acquaintances while introverts don't. This is of course because extroverts tend to meet more people, but also because they're more likely to say, oh boy, I'm not doing anything on Sunday and I haven't seen Cindy for a month. I should ask her for coffee and I can see how her new job is going. Whereas an introvert is more likely to say, oh boy, I'm not doing anything on Sunday. Extroverts experience more positive emotions.
That is 100% true. That's me. Oh, I'm not doing anything on Sunday. Woo! That's all you get from me. I haven't left this apartment in 5 days.
Or at least experience positive emotion more intensely. This means they're more enthusiastic and excitable. This is interesting because if you take something like a concert and control for drugs and alcohol, the people near the front will tend to be more extroverted, while people who are more introverted will be further away from the stage.
Like at home.
Like at home. So behaviorally, extroverts might seem to act first and think later, but I think a better description would be that extroverts tend to experience more and reflect less, while introverts experience less and reflect more. In a way, you could say the biggest fear of an introvert is losing their hearing because then they couldn't listen, whereas the biggest fear of an extrovert would be losing their tongue because then they couldn't eat ass. Now, you might wonder if your degree of introversion or extroversion changes as you get older, or if you're stuck how you are forever. And for things like how much positive emotion you experience,
if y'all don't stop putting puppies on the screen, I'm just going to be like, every time the puppy comes on the screen, oh, puppy. I'm going to start using that to my advantage on my videos. Nothing but puppies systematically thrown into your face to make you stay for longer periods of time. saw that coming.
Experience, it doesn't look like that changes much. However, some people make the argument that the things that happen to you during your life can change the way you process emotions. I don't know for sure, but anecdotally, I have never experienced much positive emotions since the big accident. Being conceived. Ultimately, it's no better or worse to be introverted or extroverted as long as your behavior really is a preference and what you're doing with your time is meaningful to you. With that said, some extroverts might socialize to avoid personal development, and some introverts might like to have more friends than they do but are anxious or lack social skills.
Saw that coming too.
So whatever your disposition, you have to spend time with people and you have to spend time alone. So make sure you're not being...
Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? How old were you? At a very young age. I mean, you know, if you really think about it, this is a guy thing, though. We're really just focused on whatever we're focused on, I guess. But what are you going to do in a movie? We're just sitting there for 2 hours saying nothing to each other. I don't know you. I could have done this by myself. And then the movie's over. How's the movie? I ain't like it. All right, cool. Star Wars, but I'm not judging that you don't like Star Wars. I just never want to see you again.
avoidant, or it can lead to some pretty big blind spots. For me, I remember back when Tinder first came out, my friends decided I had to go on at least one date just for the sake of it, because I didn't usually meet many new people. Now the thing is, I didn't have much sexual experience at the time. I mean, I still don't, but I didn't then either. So when I got a match eventually, I asked them out to a movie because I like watching movies, and I thought that's what a date was. Now, what I didn't realize was that when you're watching a movie, you don't really see or interact with the other person at all the whole time. So we were just sitting there with each other in complete darkness, not saying a word as we ate from our own bag of popcorn. Then 2.5 hours later, when the movie ended and the house lights came on, we looked at each other and said, "Good movie, huh?" "Yeah, pretty good." And that was the whole date. So yeah, 5 stars.
By the way, dinner and a movie, that's what dinner and a movie is. You went with movie. And that's also why you take somebody to a movie theater that has a dinner place. If you want to be there, you know, you can bounce wow together, mash them up like... My analogy game is silent today. Anyway, yeah, what are we doing? Introversion is not a word. Introvertness, not a word either. Being an introvert does not mean not understanding basic player. Please subscribe. Come back later. We can talk. Throw in some comments. Bye.